After a comprehensive parliamentary defeat of British Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit deal, the question is what happens next. 432 MPs voted against the deal compared to 202 who voted in favour. Tonight, Theresa May will face another challenge, and that is the Labour Party's tabling of a motion of no confidence in her government, which will be voted on in Parliament later today, although current bets suggest it will fail. But there is so much up in the air, as a number of different scenarios can still play out. Well, to give us his take on how the British currency reacted and what the general expectations are in the UK, I'm joined on the line by Lukman Otunuga. He's a research analyst at FXTM. So, Lukman, how significant in your view was the margin of defeat for Theresa May's UK withdrawal deal from the EU?
Thank you for having me here today. I believe it was a very significant margin. And what was very interesting is the market reaction, because initially expectations were somewhat elevated over such a loss, causing the pound to sharply depreciate. However, we saw the complete opposite, and I think I have three logical reasons why the pound traded higher despite such a crushing defeat. Number one, the possibility that markets are already heavily priced in such a defeat. Number two, investors probably seeing this defeat as a reason for the UK government to extend the Article 50. Number three, finally, this outcome actually raising the expectations of a no-deal scenario becoming a reality. So these are the three things why we saw the pound trade higher.
Interesting. So the Labour Party has proceeded with a motion of no confidence. It's tabled that in Mrs May's government and is scheduled to take place later today. What are the expectations?
Well, the expectations are that Theresa May survives this vote of no confidence. But the lessons of the past have taught us on numerous occasions that when we're dealing with Brexit, it's always good to expect the unexpected. If we do have a situation where May is unable to survive this vote of no confidence, it will actually create another layer of political uncertainty at home on top of the Brexit uncertainty, because this actually raises the prospects of a general early election.
Yeah.
However, I think it's going to be a positive for the pound if she does survive the vote of no confidence, because naturally such an outcome would give her the opportunity to possibly extend the Article 50 and go back to the European Union to ask for more concessions on the Brexit deal.
Look, I did hear earlier the German Chancellor Angela Merkel make the point that indeed the EU wouldn't want the UK to leave in a disorderly manner, and that indeed they're willing to extend the time so that at least there can be more negotiation. But the point that was made by Labour opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn was that Mrs May has failed to get a satisfactory deal for over the past more than 2 years, in fact, and it seems there would be very little point in trying to get the permitted extension time from the EU when she hasn't managed to, get a decent deal. What will an extra 3 months do to improve the situation?
That's a valid point. We run a risk, the United Kingdom runs a risk of it being stuck in a Brexit limbo, meaning that the extension of the Article 50 becomes reality, and we have a situation where it's constant back and forth, and this uncertainty will be bad news for the United Kingdom. What I'll be looking very close to in this situation is what happens when in a vote of no confidence this evening. I think it's too early to make any conclusions based on the uncertainty, because even if Theresa May does survive the vote of no confidence, we have to keep in mind that the European Union are playing hardball, and they've already suggested that they do not want to remove the Irish the border.
Yes.
So based on this, even though the pound is trading higher on speculation of a no Brexit becoming reality, I think this is a risk that investors should not overlook, because if we do have a situation where at home the government at home is unwilling to budge and the EU is unwilling to soften their stance, then this does raise the prospects of, if not a hard Brexit, probably a situation where we have a second referendum.
Yeah. So Prime Minister May's position has been thoroughly shaken, of course. But Having survived a motion of no confidence by her own party in December, her Conservative colleagues can't touch her tenure for now. At least for the next 10 months, they can't do anything with her. But what sort of authority will she be able to carry until the next leadership contest? And how is she going to manage to govern the country under these circumstances? In other words, what I'm saying to you is that, do you think she might decide to fall on her own sword?
Theresa May is in a very tricky position, and yes, even though she survived time without Phil, the fact that she's going to be under a vote of no confidence later this evening, and does continue to show that she's losing power, and this does ultimately add to the element of uncertainty. So this is something we'll be looking very closer to this year.
If, and I know many Labour MPs are agitating for this, if the Prime Minister is forced to take the decision back to the people of Britain and a referendum is run, what's the feeling on the ground about the likely outcome? Is there a possibility that after all the drama and the toing and froing, Britons may actually decide it's better to remain in the EU?
You know, when I look at such an outcome, it will actually question democracy in the United Kingdom, and I think there's far too much for the UK government to lose to actually do a second referendum, because after the back and forth that's been going in 2 years, for a second referendum to become reality, that would be to most a slap in the face. But if this does become reality, the pound is likely to trade higher, because markets are seeing a second referendum actually resulting in a situation where the Brexit does not occur.
Yeah, but you know what? You say a slap in the face of democracy, but as many are saying, this is really uncharted territory. And given the fact that there is a sort of impasse, something's got to give somewhere. So with everything that's gone through, and with the deal not being exactly what maybe those who voted for Brexit, if it doesn't meet their expectations, maybe it's not going against the face of democracy by putting it to them again.
This is very valid, but as you've said, this is completely uncharted territories, and the truth of the matter is, the outcome of everything actually remains open to question, and this is something that we'll continue closely observing in the coming months.
That was Lukman Otunuga. He's a research analyst at FXTM.